All right, today we're diving into some seriously heavy material. This is from an investigative file that alleges a pattern so disturbing, it honestly reads more like a spy thriller. But according to our source, this is all too real. We're going to look at what seems to be a targeted purge of high-level scientists, and we're just going to follow the breadcrumbs where they lead. So, let's start with this quote, because it really is at the heart of the whole thing. The argument here isn't about bad luck or a string of strange coincidences. No, it's about a pattern, a forensic signature that points to something deliberate, something systematic. And yeah, that brings us to the big question, right? The source material we're looking at doesn't just list weird events. It's building a case that these specific people were targeted for a very specific reason, because of what they knew, and maybe more importantly, what they could build.
To really get a handle on this story, the source material does something interesting. It starts small. It doesn't throw a grand conspiracy at you. Instead, it focuses our attention on one single human data point, an anomaly.
This is Nuno Loureiro. And he wasn't just a scientist. He was the director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center. I mean, we're talking about a leader in a very, very sensitive field. And according to the documents, he was shot and killed in late 2025. This isn't just a number. It's a real person, a high-profile physicist, violently taken off the board.
But here's the thing. The source argues Loureiro wasn't a one-off. He was just the first name on a list that it calls, chillingly, the roster of the damned. And this is where we zoom out from that one single death to a truly disturbing pattern.
And this right here is the linchpin of the whole argument. When you look at the odds, a cluster of violent deaths and disappearances hitting highly educated professionals all in one niche industry over such a short period of time, well, as the source puts it, it's a statistical impossibility. It's not noise, it's a signal.
And here's that pattern laid out on a timeline. Just look at the affiliations: JPL, MIT, Wright-Patterson, Caltech. You see the pattern here, right? These aren't random places. They're the absolute epicenters of America's most advanced research. The source points to this rapid, targeted series of events, all squeezed into a tight 36-month window. What's really wild is that the source actually breaks down the methods, suggesting there's a kind of operational playbook. You've got your straightforward kinetic eliminations, which are basically murders disguised as random muggings or carjackings. Then there's the walk into the woods protocol, where people just vanish without a trace. And finally, you have biological or psychological hits, the ones that look like sudden suicides or unexpected heart attacks. Okay, so this all leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Why them? What's the thread connecting a plasma physicist from MIT, a materials director from JPL, and a general from Wright-Pat? What on earth was the motive? Now pay attention, because this is probably the most important argument in the whole file. The system isn't going after what it calls the influencers. You know, the public figures, the podcasters, the people who talk about theories. No, it's targeting the engines. These are the hands-on scientists and engineers, the people who have actually touched the hardware, who know the blueprints, who could literally build this stuff from scratch.
You get it, right? The threat here isn't just informational, it's technological. The system isn't afraid of talk. It's afraid of wrenches and blueprints. It's not about someone leaking a story. It's about someone who could walk into a lab somewhere and actually replicate a piece of this paradigm-shifting tech.
And this is what they allegedly knew. It's like a forbidden recipe with 4 key ingredients. First, the physics, plasma fusion, the kind of stuff Nuno Loureiro was an expert in. Second, the schematics, an understanding of things like the Navy's Pais Effect patents. Third, the materials. Access to recovered, non-terrestrial metamaterials, which would have been right in Monica Rees's wheelhouse at JPL. And fourth, the biology, knowledge of the actual wetware, the interface between a pilot's mind and the machine. The source just sums it all up with this one line. And man, it's a gut punch. They weren't just people who knew things. They were the living blueprints, the human instruction manuals for a technology that, according to this file, the system will do absolutely anything to keep under wraps. So, okay, we've got the victims, we've got the motive, so who's pulling the trigger? The source material gives it a name, and it frames this whole purge as, well, as a kind of immune response. The name the source material gives this thing, the Archonic control system, that's the term it uses for this overarching, deep-state apparatus that has supposedly been managing all this secrecy for decades. And here's why this is supposedly happening now. The theory is, as the walls of secrecy start to crumble, With all the whistleblower laws and congressional hearings, the system is getting cornered. It can't just rely on NDAs and security clearances to keep people quiet anymore.
And when a cornered system gets desperate, it goes back to its most basic, brutal tool. The source calls it the silencing protocol, the direct, physical elimination of anyone who is a living, breathing security breach. It's a cleanup operation in the most literal sense of the word.
So, where does all this leave us? What's the final verdict here? Well, the source frames it as one hell of an indictment.
And look, the source is crystal clear on this point. This isn't presented as some what-if scenario or a conspiracy theory.
No, they're calling it what it is, a cleanup operation, an active, ongoing purge designed to cut the lines between the public and the truth by getting rid of the only people who could actually explain it.
And they use this one phrase that just sticks with you. They call it a hot war fought in the shadows. This isn't a cold war of secrets and whispers anymore. According to this, it's a hot war with real casualties, all happening just out of sight. And that leaves us with one final and pretty terrifying question that the source material poses. If the engines, the human instruction manuals, are being systematically taken off the board, who's left to build the machines? Who's in control now? It's a really chilling thought to end on.